1,000 subscribers. I wanted this channel to get there by the end of April, but it's not even the end of March and we're already here. From the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for making that happen. So let's celebrate with a fun video. Bit of backstory about me, this wrestling YouTube isn't my first social media racket. A couple years back, I used to run a moderately successful Pokemon-themed TikTok page. So what better way to celebrate than to put those two worlds together and really just max out on my personal brand of autistic hyperfixation. I have for you today 5 wrestlers, each chosen based on a video I've made here on YouTube, and I've given each of them full teams of 6 Pokemon. They also have type specialties, hometowns within the Pokemon world, and the ace of each team will have a wrestling style epithet. With that established, let's jump into our first team, Drew McIntyre. The Drew video was the first real video essay I had made in 3 years, and the amount of support it got really drove me to keep making things over the past few weeks. Funny enough, by having a really dogshit title reign, Drew McIntyre has become a much more dear wrestler to me, and I hope that's reflected in his team. Every wrestler is going to have an ace Pokemon, and for the Scottish warrior Drew McIntyre, I thought there would be no better pick than the Cursed Claymore, Aegislash, because we're gonna do fun wrestler nicknames for the Pokemon. It's fun, just have a little fun. Anyway, I think this one should be pretty self-explanatory. Drew is a guy who famously carries around a sword. I gave him the sword Pokemon. But if we dig a little deeper, I think it also fits and reflects Drew's character. You know, Drew's the self-sabotage guy. He has a lot of toxic habits and tendencies. If you know anything about Honedge, which is the first stage of the Aegislash line, if you hold the sword, that blue part wraps around your arm and it siphons your soul. So you sacrifice little pieces of yourself for power, which is a bargain that a character like Drew would absolutely make. And doesn't that belt just look nice on Aegislash? Gold on steel. Let's talk about the rest of the team. Heads up that while I do have type specialties for each trainer, they're not really hard rules. In fact, they more so came about after I made the team rather than being something I made the team based on. I thought Steel Dark really worked because we already had Aegislash and Drew is kind of an evil man, which is what the Dark type is for. And there were 2 Pokemon I knew that I wanted for Drew right away, and those were Berserker and Dubwool. You know, these are kind of the Scottish Pokemon. Berserker's more of a Viking thing, but you could get a Highlander vibe out of that, you know? I picture that in Pokemon World, Drew would train by just pressing his Dubwool over his head. My next 2 picks are very vibes-based. Duraludon and Drapion, I thought they fit. They fit the typing specialty I went for, and they're just 2 very big, imposing Pokemon who I think would look good standing next to Drew. You know, even in WWE, it stands out just how big and tall Drew is. This man is a monster. So I wanted to give Pokemon that fit that monstrous vibe. And lastly, a Pokemon that was kind of left field for me, but a choice that I am very proud of in retrospect. Toxtricity didn't really fit the type specialty, didn't really fit the Drew vibe per se. I guess they're both kind of apathetic. But then I remembered everyone's favorite 3MB. What better tribute to the most mid-card hell phase of Drew's career than with a Pokemon that, in my headcanon, was gifted to him by his former bandmates as a way of staying connected. Drew, if you're watching, please just whip out that air guitar one more time. It'd be really funny. And yeah, that's Drew's team. For his hometown, I went with Motosoke and Galar. Obviously, Galar's this UK pastiche. He was actually champion of Galar for a hot minute, but then Cody just reloaded his save file and got his win back. And speaking of Cody, let's move on now to our second team for our second trainer, Cody Rhodes. Cody is the first wrestler I ever made a YouTube video about. That video is not my finest work, but it was a work of passion. Specifically, frustration about a wrestler that I kind of liked, but also had a lot of issues with at the time. But I'm chill with him now, and hopefully his team reflects that. For the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, I thought there was no better ace than the Disaster Cannon, Blastoise. That's the coolest epithet I've come up with. Just a heads up, I haven't topped that one. I tried. So Blastoise felt like a good choice because Cody Rhodes, in his, as he likes to call it, QB1 position, is very much a mascot for the company, so you want to choose a Pokemon that's very well known and iconic, and I thought Blastoise fit that criteria pretty well. You know, is Blastoise the most famous Pokemon? No, obviously not, but he's pretty high up there, and his fans might even try to portray him as more of an underdog in that respect than he is. You know, maybe despite its hard work, savvy, and dedication, we should also be honest that Blastoise had a fair few advantages and connections to get him at the point that he's at in the industry. The Pokemon industry. Oh, but we loves him all the same, don't we? We loves him. For the rest of Cody's team, much like Cody himself, I have really leaned into the America shtick. As such, Braviary was a no-brainer inclusion. If there is an America the Pokemon, it's probably Braviary. Literal red, white, and blue bald-ass eagle. The next two,
Arcanine,
then Boltund, are because, fun fact, Cody has a dog. His name is Pharaoh. Growlithe kind of has his fur. Boltund has his eyes. This is the main reason that they are on the team. Other than them, I think just generally fitting the vibe as well. You know, Arcanine has this really heroic look that would complement Cody really well, and Boltund has this kind of dopey energy that I really appreciate, that I honestly didn't appreciate until looking at this art for this team pick. Like, I didn't think a Pokemon introduced in 3D generations could be done dirty by 3D idle animations, but look at this artwork, and then look at this pose. Galar did Boltund, its own creation, incredibly dirty. So perhaps it gets a second life on Cody Rhodes' team. Next up, Vileplume. This is kind of the weirdest choice I made, but walk with me here. So first of all, red, white, and blue color scheme. Come on, I honestly, I didn't even notice that until just now, looking at the goddamn thing. This was not part of my original reasoning, but it works. I'm operating on levels even I don't understand. Beyond that, I wanted Cody to have a balanced, you know, protagonist-y team. So that meant hitting, you know, a lot of the major types: water, fire, grass, flying, electric. Those are kind of types that are on a lot of Ash teams in the anime. So I wanted a team that you could feasibly give like a Pokemon protagonist. Also, Vileplume has this like mischievous energy, which matches Cody's sort of heelish antics and tendencies. And like, Vileplume looks really friendly, but then it's going to do some status condition bullshit to your Pokemon. It's like, well, that's not very honorable or a very friendly way to fight. And yet it is beloved. And finally, Druddigon. Again, it fit the color scheme, and I thought it would be good to round out this protagonisty team with a cool dragon, because that is a staple not only of the Pokemon anime, but of every Pokemon-like that has ever come out. I had also long decided on Unova being Cody's home region because America, so having another Gen 5 Pokemon felt right, and that gives us our Cody team. Let's talk about Cody in Pokemon World. So, he is still called the American Nightmare. He still name drops America. In Pokemon World, America does not exist. No one knows what it is, they just go along with it. In my head, he is like one of the most powerful trainers of the world, and he is talking about this, for all people know, could be his made-up D&D world, literally all the time. And I chose him to be from Driftvale because that's where Clay is, and this is the most southern-looking man in Unova, I think, so the vibe fit pretty well there. You know, Clay's work as a gym leader is good and all, but you really gotta see his stuff from the Georgia circuit. Dude was working. And his little symbol is 3 stars because America, but also because I'm a little bitch, and I still think it's funny to call him the 3-star soldier. Just a little smarky treat for me. Our third trainer is Hangman Adam Page. This is based off my Hangman video. It's currently my most viewed video, and it is the one I'm most proud of. It was really fun and rewarding to chronicle the story, the arc of this wrestling character that I've followed for, God, 6 years now. And I really reflected that by completely bumblefucking my way into a proper team, which I will tell you about. So Hangman's typing was actually the first thing I decided on with his team, because I knew I wanted this fire-grass pairing. You know, I wanted these explosive Pokemon right next to a bunch of kindling, because Hangman has a sort of fire motif for obvious reasons, and it spoke to the sort of self-destructive nature of that character. A lot of open flames around a lot of dry grass. It's not very sustainable or safe or healthy, but got in the right conditions, it gets the job done. It really does. The ace for Hangman seems pretty obvious. Rapidash. It's a fire horse. He is an arsonist cowboy. It's a match made in heaven. I had made every other aspect of this team until I realized, oh shit, Rapidash exists, and I haven't put it anywhere. So obviously I had to rework the whole lineup because I didn't remember the goddamn fire horse existed for my arson cowboy Pokemon team. God, I never said I was qualified. I'm trying my best. There are so many Pokemon, and I'm not in the game anymore. I'm not in that TikTok Pokemon game anymore. They're not all in there all the time, and honest, it does scare me. I've never been like this before. Anyway, Hangman Adam Page comes with the Burning Buckshot Rapidash. Is it subtle? No. But is it clever? Not really. But yes, this fits the theme. This fits Hangman to a T. For his team, I chose Trevenant because it looks like the driest of the grass Pokemon. Also, with those arms, I think it could hit a really satisfying looking Lariat. But it is mostly here because it looks like it would catch fire easily. Cacturne is more of a triple threat. It fits the theme, it fits the typing, and cacti, are kind of cowboy adjacent. So it works. And obviously that thing on Cacturne's head isn't exactly a cowboy hat, but it kind of has that vibe. I would give this thing a 6-shooter. I think it would fit. It doesn't have the fingers for it, but you never know. Camerupt? I don't know. I needed another fire Pokemon, and I thought Camerupt fit pretty well. I know it's supposed to be a camel, but it's kind of cow-like. You could put this thing on a farm. The farm wouldn't be not on fire for very long, but you could put it there. Next, Mudsdale. This one's obvious. Another horse Pokemon. One could argue that Mudsdale is the horsiest of the horse Pokemon. Like, that's not quite a normal horse, but that is mostly just a horse. But I also think Mudsdale has a pretty good place in this team's theming, because okay, let's say you have a little fire burning. You're in the woods. Because what would you put on it to put it out? Well, you would suffocate it with some dirt and mud. So Mudsdale, in addition to being horse, could also give a bit of balance, put out the little fires, because, Hangman does have a little bit of self-control. He can get a handle of himself eventually, and I wanted a Pokemon that could reflect that restorative quality while also being a horse. This also gives Mudsdale a really nice contrast to Rapidash. We have a destructive horse and a subduing horse, and I think that would be reflected by how Hangman moves through Pokemon World. If you see the Hangman riding on his Mudsdale, everything's gonna be fine. But if he's riding on that Rapidash, you better get out of Dodge. Or whatever town you're in. Finally, Sawsbuck. This was my original pick for Hangman's ace. Because Buckshot Lariat, because I am a hack. But I still like Sawsbuck for the team, especially with its gimmick where it has different forms for every season. Instead, Sawsbuck could have different forms that reflect Hangman's emotional state at a given time. As for his hometown, I went with Floroma because of the gardening, because of the grass theming, but then I gave him backstory, where he abandoned his hometown in search of vengeance. Possibly against a specific Pokemon trainer, but who could say? Who could say? I imagine Hangman got the Rapidash and was like, well, I can't live in Grasstown with this openly on fire Pokemon. Better leave. And now he mostly wanders Pokemon World. He's definitely strong enough to take on the Sinnoh League, but for some unknown reason, he just can't seem to challenge it. How odd. On to the first of our final two, and I am so excited. These are two of my favorite teams. Hey, let me take you on a journey, just a little bit. First, we have Rio. This is our sorta halvesy situation. I made a doubles team. It was really fun. This is based on my tag teams video, my most recent video, and since that wasn't based on a specific wrestler, I could pick who I wanted, and I wanted to do Rio. So we've got two aces to review. For Rhea Ripley, I went with the Judge Houndoom. Just look at this thing. It fits the aesthetic. It used to be called the Judgment, but after a rocky breakup, it got a little name change. For EO, I went with the Moonsault Mask Ogerpon. I think these two have a lot of common. I think they really fit each other's vibe. They both carry masks with them a lot of the time. Well, that's kind of the end of the list, but I don't know. I just really saw these two going really well together. If you remain unconvinced, I have prepared this helpful visual illustration to show that I think the two would have some similar interests in doing crazy stunts. The rest of the team consists of 2 Pokemon for each of them. Hopefully it's obvious whose is whose, but let's cover them in pairs. I gave Rhea an Umbreon and Io an Espeon. I don't know if these are necessarily Pokemon I would have on their normal teams. In my head, this is kind of something they did together when they started teaming together. If you'll refer to my fun fact section, they would have caught the Eevees together, they evolved very close together, and they are a symbol of the very good friendship they have. On the ends are 2 Pokemon I think they would absolutely have on their singles teams. Nidoqueen for Rhea and Hawlucha for Io. First of all, I wanted to put these 2 together because they have decent synergy in a double battle setting. You know, Nidoqueen could use Earthquake, Hawlucha wouldn't get hit because it's obviously fighting and flying. And I think these are 2 Pokemon that reflect their owners in terms of their wrestling styles. You know, I see Nidoqueen as this big powerhouse. Both Nidoking and Nidoqueen would powerbomb some motherfuckers. I just see it very clearly. Nidoqueen also fits because, and I hope this isn't out of line, a big aspect of Rhea's popularity and fandom are certain aesthetic qualities that really speak to many people of many persuasions, and these aspects are kind of played into a little bit by the performer and by the branding. And Nidoqueen's been shaking titties since the N64, so in my eyes, it's a match made. And for Io, I went with Hawlucha. I could have gone for a lot of flying Pokemon, and maybe Hawlucha seems like a very safe choice. Oh yes, of course we would give a wrestler Hawlucha, but I think it really fits in Io's case, A, because Hawlucha looks very spry in the same way that Io is, you know? Obviously, the Lucha Pokemon would be very reflective of a high-flying style, but also Io's specific brand of Joshi Wrestling, you know, the promotion she used to wrestle for Stardom, these were very, very heavily influenced by Lucha Libre and masked wrestlers, hence why she carries that mask sometimes. I'm not the biggest expert on Lucha Libre's exact inspirations on Joshi Wrestling or on Stardom or Io specifically, but I do know they exist. I know they're both very high-flying styles anyway, and also Io was on Lucha Underground, so there you go. Also, I just said the primary region they battle in was Johto. I'll be honest, I don't know what to do with that 4th box on these teams. You know, I didn't want to put 2 separate hometowns for whatever reason, but I also didn't know what else to put there. You could, recommend what I can put there in the comments below, maybe. And again, I'll draw your eye to the Eevees and the fun fact, because you had to make it a little gay. And speaking of making it a little gay, I am so excited for our final team. It's my personal favorite, and it didn't start out that way. This is the team I made for CM Punk, and this reflects the video I made about CM Punk. I still feel lots of things about him, and I think that's reflected in his Pokemon team. So, the best in the world, CM Punk, comes side by side with the straight edge stopper, Obstagoon. I mean, was there a more open goal than this? Look at Obstagoon. It's even doing the pose that CM Punk does. It's a no-brainer, come on now. You know, Obstagoon also reflects that sort of grungy, countercultural vibe that still CM Punk, it's still sort of the center of his character and his branding. So that was a pretty easy choice. Next on the team is Mabosstiff. Once again, we have a visual similarity here, this time in terms of hair. Mabosstiff kind of has the same pompadour, puff-up looking thing that Punk has a lot of the time. Sort of similar in the facial hair department, and Mabosstiff is just a very old dog, and CM Punk very famously also had a very old dog named Larry, who unfortunately passed pretty recently. I thought it would be nice to reflect that and show a little tribute to that in terms of Pokemon team. Mabosstiff fit that, as well as fitting the dark typing, which I knew was going to be part of CM Punk's team because I think that vibe fits him. Next up is Raichu. Okay, for all the rest of these ones, you're gonna have to walk with me, okay? I wanted a Pokemon that would kind of reflect that CM Punk is currently in what I would call his mascot era. You know, he's on the cover of the game, he's in ads, he's doing media appearances, he has a new t-shirt for every single city that they go to. He's in his marketing mascot era. Initially, I went with Charizard, sort of to complement Cody's Blastoise, another current champion in WWE, but then I had a better idea. Because Raichu is a mascot Pokemon without being a mascot Pokemon. You know, it's the evolution of Pikachu. It has the same iconic elements, but it's just a little bit more niche. Just a little bit less marketing friendly. You know, it's not the face of this whole shebang, but to claim that it's truly countercultural or punk would be ridiculous. Another reason why is because I know the wrestler I would give a Pikachu as their ace, and that would be John Cena. And a big part of Punk and Cena's feud last year, and the feud in 2013, was how similar the two really are. Especially now with Punk really stepping up into that Cena-ish face of the company sort of role, and going a lot more corporate. So I thought it would be good to give him a team member to reflect that parallel. Yes, we're different, but we're really not that different. And this really became the true team of the rest of Punk's team, was the rivals that he's picked up through his career, as is the case with Corviknight, who I based on his Ring of Honor feud with Raven. I'm not personally that well versed in Ring of Honor, but to my understanding, this was a big feud that put CM Punk on the map. It gave him a lot of meaningful character work that was revisited in his feud with MJF. And in my sort of headcanon for Punk, for the longest time, this Corviknight would have been a Corvisquire to reflect, a little bit of the fragility of Punk as a wrestler, which I think is an important part of the psychology of his matches. But it would have evolved during the MJF feud because, reclaiming and refining this history really buffed up that part of himself, a little thematic thing like that. And it's the first one of our wrestler Pokemon that can really come with a story, an arc to go through. So I think that's fun. Okay, so Furret. You're really gonna have to walk with me on Furret. This one's really just for me, and maybe I'm the only one who sees it, but let me explain. So, my favorite thing that CM Punk has done since coming back, period, was his feud with Eddie Kingston in AEW. And really, I just mean I love this promo segment, and I love this match. But this is about this promo segment, because just something about CM Punk's look and performance here, for me, is like, that's quintessentially old man CM Punk. That's who he ought to be. That's who he is. And who he is, in both look and demeanor, is a ferret who learned condescension. A ferret who learned a holier-than-thou attitude. Like, he just looks like an old weasel who thinks he's so much better than you because he doesn't drink or smoke or talk to women.
I don't drink or smoke or hang out with women.
And that absolutely comes out in this promo. God, they're such good contrasts for each other. I'm gonna play, I don't know what clip I'm gonna play, but I'm going to play a clip.
I am not wrong for seeing greatness in you 15 years ago, but I damn sure am a fool for trying to hold you to that standard and expect greatness because you're a bum.
God, I love this promo so much, and I love Furret so much, and Furret reflected this version of CM Punk that I see, and also sort of the little bit of whimsy that he has, You can especially see when he's rage baiting someone, he's having fun doing it, and Furret sort of represents that fun. If that hasn't convinced you, nothing will. I have nothing else for this. It's just something that I see. Also, Furret can learn some moves that it absolutely should not learn. Like, you can give this thing Thunderbolt, and that's kind of the way I feel watching CM Punk jump from high places. Like, ooh, your body shouldn't be doing that, and it's kind of visually clear. So yeah, CM Punk has a Furret, it probably has Thunderbolt. It's just for me. And finally, Toxtricity. So, CM Punk has had this thing for a long time, because his vibe has always been that grungy, punky aesthetic that Toxtricity reflects. It is only by coincidence that he has one parallel with Drew McIntyre, but ooh, what a good coincidence it would be. It's almost like these similarities make them dramatic foils for each other. Whoa. And it rounded out this team of CM Punk's rivalries, toxic yaoi situationships, and it's made me really proud of this team. The type specialty is Dark Electric because that's what ended up being on the team, but I think it really fits. CM Punk fits the vibe of Dark-type Pokemon, and for the Electric, you could say it's his electrifying promos and instigator behavior. Hometown Spikemouth in Galar. Hey, Drew's from Galar too, haha. And also because that's the grungy punk place, and as we all know, CM Punk is from the mean streets of Chicago, so there you go. And that's our final team. This video has been so much fun to make. I will absolutely be doing more in the future, so please comment down below any suggestions you have for wrestlers you want to see, or themes that you would have, or if you think I've steered some of these wrestlers wrong in my picks, please let me know in the comments. The more you like, comment, and subscribe for this video, the sooner another one like it will come out. I will say that much. Other than that, I have more wrestling-based video essays on the way to you. Keep an eye out for one about Monday Night Raw, probably next Monday, and possibly another one between now and then. At any rate, Pokemon, pro wrestling, Yuri, Yaoi, if any of these terms scratch your brain, then there will be something on this channel for you. Stick around and enjoy. Thank you very much.